Hi, I'm Holly Powell. I'm the audition teacher for Master Talent Teachers. In today's video, we're going to be sitting down and talking with John Sudol. John has worn many different hats in this industry. He's been an actor, a casting director, a director. He ran his own theater in Seattle. And today we're going to be sitting down and talking to him about his acting studio, The Language of the Face. So John, The Language of the Face. Tell me, how did you come up with that?
Actually, to make a long story short, it actually happened after an audition. I walked out. I had worked for this one specific production company before, and I went in. I knew the casting director, knew the producers, said hi to everybody, but I didn't know this director. I read it. They liked it, but the director wanted this one specific moment. And he felt it was very pivotal to the story. So he told me what he wanted. I made the adjustment, and no, that wasn't it. I did the scene again, took that information in, and he looks at me and he gave me one of these. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Yeah, and so that moment.
So you thought you were feeling it.
I thought I was given exactly what he wanted. I mean, I walked out completely frustrated because nowhere in my toolbox was there a tool that said, here's how you interpret what he's saying, and here's how you give him that reaction. And the thing was that as he was talking to me, I was looking at some way I can express this through my body. But he didn't want it on my body because he wanted to see it on my face.
See it on your face.
And so that was the seed that was planted. It stuck with me, but it was when I got into commercial casting that I noticed one of the hardest things for the majority of actors to do, come in, there's an X, and give me a reaction. And even harder than that was give me a series of reactions. And so from that point on, I started working with them. I mean, studying these actors, and I noticed that they all did 4 things. What was on their face when I did a reaction was recognizable. That it was also appropriate, meaning it wasn't too big or too small. You know how the director give you kind of an adjustment, you make that smaller, and you make it smaller without losing the intensity or bigger. They moved from one reaction to the next reactions, like one thought at a time. And the 4th thing that they all had, especially the ones who pretty much booked it, is they had this ability to repeat exactly what they did. And so from that information, I just kind of knew that if they could repeat it, there's a skill. And if I can figure out what that skill was, I can teach it. It ultimately culminated into the language of the face, nonverbal emotional communication.
Right.
It wasn't until about, I would say about 12 years ago, I stumbled upon some of the research material, of the leading research in the field of emotions. And everything I knew intuitively was now validated, and all of a sudden it opened up a world of new ideas and pathways to go. That I learned that there's 7 universal emotions that anywhere on the planet people will recognize them.
And just to cover it, just those 7.
They're surprise, fear, anger, sadness, disgust, contempt, and happy. Now, what's interesting, though, is that when I talk to a lot of actors about what they study, and most people will study acting, but really what they've studied is the art of doing. They've taken improv, they've taken voice, diction, they've taken even movement. But when I ask how many people have actually studied the nature and experience of an emotion and what it looks like on your face from the most subtle to the most extreme, very few. But if you don't understand emotions,
People block emotions. They don't really.
Well, what we've learned is how to manage emotions. We've been taught when we can feel something, how much we can feel it, and where we can feel it. But we're never taught this is what it looks like. You recognize it when somebody close to you is upset, but you can't tell me what muscles are involved in that. But you kind of recognize it. And if I ask you to duplicate it, you may or may not achieve that. And if you did, how'd you know? If I knew what that director was asking of me, and I could interpret that and go, oh, you're talking about loss. And when I often tell actors when I'm working with them, if there is a distortion between what you feel and what your face is revealing, booking becomes very difficult. See, that's another thing that's interesting. People don't realize what's on their face. Some people's faces don't say anything. Some people's faces talk a little bit, some people's faces talk a lot, and some people's faces don't shut up.
I'm sure you've worked with actors when they start working on the facial thing. Is it coming from the inside out, or is it coming from the outside
Well,
in?
before I answer that, we, as actors, myself, and I'm sure you've been trained the same way, the two means of emotional communication have been, what we've been taught, is through the body and through the voice. You know, if you're on stage, how does somebody know what you're feeling? They know it by what you do, how you do it, they can hear it in the voice. We've never really focused on how the face communicates specifically. So we've left that out of the mix, but there are three means of nonverbal communication, emotional communication, which is the body, the voice, and the face. Stanislavski didn't want to deal with emotions because he felt they were too unreliable. That was one of the things.
Is that right? That's so interesting. He felt emotions were unreliable.
Yeah, because one day you're thinking about it, you're sitting up and you get anger. Another time you recall another, the event, and you feel sad. You feel, and then another time you're angry. Well, the thing is, emotions are incredibly reliable if you use the correct trigger and you know how to guide them. Because I can, again, that actor who came in who could repeat it, did it intuitively, knew it. But I guarantee if you use the correct trigger each time, the loss trigger each time, and focus on that loss and guide it to sad, you'll have sad every single time. And how do you know you will? You know what it feels like. And you know how it's changing your face.
So it always has to come from the emotional side
Always
first.
stimulus response. It's always creating it, but then you're guiding it, and your instrument is in alignment with that emotion.
Do you find that when you're working with stage actors who are a little bit bigger and then they're trying to get into the camera, do you find that they're too big?
The way I look at it is not about being too big or too small. If you are working truthfully, there's a stimulus and a response.
Right.
What I look at is you're being inappropriate, for this venue. Because
the tone of the piece.
Exactly. People say
the world that you're in.
I ask them, well, what is the difference between stage acting and on-camera acting? And oftentimes I'll get, well, film acting, on-camera acting is smaller. I said, do you ever watch Nickelodeon?
Nickelodeon show is going to be very different from a CBS show.
And that could be what they're doing for stage there. Could be great for Nickelodeon. It really depends. A lot of people are too small for the show. So I think it's about being appropriate.
I had seen that you talk about myths. So could you talk to me? There were like 3 myths that you...
4.
4 myths.
4 myths. The first myth was, I'm sure we've all heard this, it's all in the eyes. The eyes are the windows of the soul. The second myth is about stage acting, on-camera acting is a matter of making stage acting smaller, which we started talking about there. The third myth is that if I create it truthfully, honestly, organically, it will appear on my face appropriately. And myth number 4 is just think the thought and it will be revealed on your face. And to be brief about each one, if you go think the thought, it'll appear on your face, and go, well, thank God that's not true because we'd be in a lot of trouble. We have the ability not to show it. Now, what most
appropriate.
Again, appropriate. It's thinking the thought, which is the thought is very important. It's the impetus to action. But a thought not connected to a strong enough idea or opinion will never change your face. You've had many thoughts that cross. Don't change it. But when you think of something that has enough, you have a strong enough opinion to, it will. On the same side, a facial reaction without a thought is an acting lie.
Well, let's talk about all in the eyes. It's not.
Okay, let's go all in the eyes.
Let's skip there.
Let's go all in the eyes. Well, that's the first. I always like to look at things logically. Your eyes move left, right. They can go around in circles. The pupil can dilate. It can contract. But have your eyes ever woken you up in the middle of the night saying, "Damn, I'm mad"? Have they ever gotten to a point and going, "You better get me out of here because I'm going to lose it"? Now, your eyes don't get emotional. And I have checked. There is no conduit from your emotional peptides from your eyes to your emotional peptides. There's no conduit. You have emotional peptides throughout your whole body. You feel emotion through your body.
So tears come from another
Well, tears, yeah, they're the result of, of
The emotion.
feeling of the emotion, and it happens.
I get it, okay. Not the eyes, it's
Everything
the
around the
muscles
eyes.
around the eyes.
It's the lids, it's the brow, it's the cheekbones, it's the upper lip, and it's the ridge of the lips. And even when I was flashing a little contempt, it was just the corner.
The original thing is for the actor to go to the circumstances, what they're doing, what they want, what's my intention.
Exactly.
All of that, and it has to start there.
Absolutely.
Or else, so therefore, to wrap up and to go back to that original question is, it's not outside going in. It always starts from the inside going out.
Here's the thing: you can start it outside in. By that, if I was to ask you to move your jaw out, and anybody who's watching this, if you take your jaw and just move it forward a little bit, seeking a little negative energy. As soon as you find it, hold there. You're going to find something that's changing in the eyes once you're there. Now you're on the beginning of a little slow, could be irritation, focus, thinking. And so you did change something. Now it's written in our DNA.
So it started behavior first.
We
And
did.
then
We
it
did.
translates into the thought.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John, so
I
much.
appreciate it for having me.
Yeah.
Give me a
thanks
chance
lot.
to share.
When I coach actors for auditions, they're often very frustrated that what they're feeling inside doesn't always translate onto the face. This can be a big problem when going on tape for producers. John Sudol has come up with some very interesting theories and techniques to help with the language of the face.